So, hi everyone, welcome to the last day of Green for Gold. It has been so amazing to see the Point Loma community come together, the PLNU community come together and support students, and we are super thankful for you. I am Madison Salazar, and this is Zab. We are Student Alumni Ambassadors here with your final episode of We Are Loma. This is a very special episode because we are going to hear from our very own faculty and staff about what virtual PLNU looks like for them in the season. And today we are joined by Scott McGowan, who is the Director of Community Life, and Dr. Lindsey Lupo, who is the Faculty Department Chair of History and Political Science. So let's just jump right in with the first question. So this is directed at both of you guys. What are some unique experiences you've had with students this semester?
So yeah, we've done, a whole shift toward a new form of learning, obviously taking on Canvas. It has led to, I think, some unique opportunities that some of us had not anticipated. Initially, we maybe all thought of the ways in which this was just going to be hard and a hindrance. But I would say that our transition to Canvas has been incredibly successful. I have to give all kinds of credit to our Office of Instructional Design and Office of Instructional Technology. It takes a village, and they were so incredibly helpful. So the staff on this campus has been amazing, and it's allowed us to connect with students, I think, in some really important ways, and ways that I think are actually easier than when we were face-to-face, which is incredible. So one thing I found is that students come to office hours much more frequently. Right now I hold office hours twice a week in lieu of live class sessions. And I've gotten to know students in a really more intentional way, I would say. So Maddie, you and I actually have never physically met. We've never met in person, but I feel like just having you in class this semester and having you in office hours has been a really neat experience. So I think connecting is just a lot easier.
Yeah, it feels like almost every experience you have with a student in these conditions is a little bit unique. Some of it for me being here, I'm on campus right now. I'm in my office. I get to work from campus most of the time. And which is a huge blessing. And I'm really spoiled that might be the most spoiled staff person on campus, in that all of my student leaders, and I work directly with the ASB Board of Directors, they're all here. And that's, most staff people don't get to say that. So that's lucky for me, but it's also a different experience. First off, those board members all started working much earlier than normal. They started working at the beginning of the summer, trying to figure out how they're going to approach this year. And it was all on Zoom. It was all virtual for many months, where this group had never met each other in person, and yet are doing all this work together virtually. And so those were all really unique experiences. And then really just that now, because there's so few students that are on campus, I get the chance to get more intentional, undivided attention time with the students that I meet with when I'm doing one-on-ones. There's not students knocking on the door or passing by, or we can take a walk around campus and not expect to see 10 people who want to have a conversation. It ends up being more intentional, more directed. And we're just in an environment where we know people, there's a tendency to have people be experiencing more loneliness. And so you get that unique opportunity that when you do get that intentional one-on-one time, it's more valuable. I don't know. It's like a heightened desire to connect. So that's allowed, just allowed for, I think, some development and growth that might not have happened otherwise. So there's definitely been some good upside.
Super cool. Dr. Lupo, I have a question for just you. How have you been able to transition teaching methods to an online platform? And maybe if you could just walk us through kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, so it was learning by rapid fire. I thought that I had some Canvas game previously, and turns out I didn't. And so again, I credit the Office of Instructional Technology and in Instructional Design. I learned a lot, and I have to say that one of the coolest things that I experienced this summer was the unbelievable effort of all of my faculty colleagues, adjunct colleagues, staff colleagues, the way that everyone just like poured themselves into this process and helped one another. I mean, I'm on like, I don't even know how many different text chains, and we had faculty trainings where people just volunteered their time to lead the trainings, and people volunteered their time to show up to the trainings over the summer. And we all just collaborated to build our Canvas courses. There was like a lot of sharing of ideas, like, hey, I discovered how to do this. I had a couple colleagues who would like film short videos, like, I figured this out about quizzes, and then they would share it with people. And I think that has made such a difference, because we all now feel super comfortable with having so much of our content online and feeling like the students can navigate it in a clear way. So, you know, in some ways it's not ideal. A discussion board is not the same perhaps as having a discussion in class, but I have to say I'm super impressed with the way that the students have just leaned into this moment and continue to engage. I teach one live Zoom session every week with my classes. And then, like I said, I have office hours the other 2 days. And every week, I mean, we're past the halfway point of the semester. And I feel like every week the Zoom session is like even more engaging than the previous week. And it's really pretty shocking. Like, everybody's showing up, everybody's asking questions. For the most part, they all have their cameras on. I don't think anybody thinks this is fantastic, like in terms of the modality, but they're totally engaging with the content still. And so I think that says a lot about our campus community and who we are and what we expect, and the dedication that the students have and that the staff and faculty and administration has. So we're making it work. Plus, I've just, like I said, discovered some fun ways to do Canvas. I've integrated Flipgrid, which offers some fun opportunities for students to get to know one another, and office hours where I think students don't feel as maybe, I don't know, scared to come to office hours because it's virtual instead of coming to my office. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And I know the student body is super appreciative of all the faculty and staff, and just everyone willing to make that transition, and especially super quick how you guys did. So thank you for that. And now, Scott, we have a question for you. What are some things that are happening right now that you see as a highlight or as beneficial to the student body?
Yeah, I would actually say there's a few things I'm seeing. I'm the director of community life, and so, you know, it's my job to help facilitate developing community and to do that alongside the ASB. Huge one is the ASB website, which actually Zab was a director last year, and a huge part of launching that at the beginning of this, which was right at the end of last year. And this year's board has picked that up and providing a place online for students to be able to in some way connect with some version of what we all know is this unique, powerful Point Loma community that draws people together. And that's something that has needed to happen probably for a long time, and didn't and probably wouldn't have if we weren't in this environment, and will continue long after this pandemic is over. That resource is going to continue to be really, I think, central to student life on campus. So that's awesome. A part of that underneath that is the board sponsored a podcast series, which again, there's so many things going on in person on campus, as anyone who, you know, all the alumni out there know. This is just this vibrant community, and we wouldn't think as much to engage in maybe, you know, virtual content or things like podcasts, because there's plenty of awesome in-person stuff usually going on. So in this environment, we have that opportunity to actually put together this podcast series that tries to highlight some of the ideas, stories that affect our students that maybe aren't always front and center. And in fact, just 3 weeks ago, I actually had Dr. Lupo on the podcast to talk for an hour from her expertise in civic discourse, which, if talk about it, there's a topic that we all need to be thinking about engaging in. How are we talking about the big cultural ideas and political ideas that are floating around in our society right now? So that's awesome, and maybe wouldn't have happened in under normal circumstances. So those are a couple things. I think maybe the last thing I'm just thinking of that's been really cool is, I came to Point Loma out of like the business world, and one of the things, and Zab, you remember this from last year, that I joke about with my students is getting them to call me on the phone. That like, I get about halfway through the year before they really take me seriously, that if they need something or want to talk about something, just pick up that phone and give me a call. Like a text message is fine, but it's not great. And we don't have to wait for an in-person meeting. Like, just give me a call. And that's something that's a really simple business skill that is really hard oftentimes for young people to develop. And now in this environment, like, students are doing that, and they're just much more willing to go there. And I think so it's one little area where I think there's a much more resilience that's actually growing because of the conditions we're in and students are responding. So that's I don't know, just a little piece. It's been cool to see.
Yeah. And you are really good at picking up that phone, Scott. Dr. Lupo, I have another question for you. And I think a lot of us are interested on what this looks like from the perspective of a professor, especially for me as a student. What does a typical day for a faculty member look like right now? And what have you been doing to balance work and personal life?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of time on Canvas. But for me, at least, it's, I start my day pretty early. Usually I'm up at 5, and twice a week I drive to campus. I find it's helpful for me to be in that environment. I get there and, well, every day starts with coffee. Let me just start there. And just start prepping for if I have like a live session. I think one thing that's hard is that Canvas, like things that I normally just say in class, that like if there's confusion, then they can ask that question right there. Like, can you clarify this? Canvas, you have to like lay it all out there as clearly as possible. I think all the faculty are giving students as much grace as reasonable, and knowing that a full load online is not what they signed up for. And so I know that I'm trying to always take into consideration that if something slips through the cracks, it's probably not because they weren't trying or weren't engaging or being lazy. It's probably that they got a bit overwhelmed, and that's completely understandable. And so I approach every day looking at Canvas as though like, okay, if I was really overwhelmed with all these online classes, what would I need right in front of me to make this easier for me? So I'm really trying to do that. On campus, I walk around as much as I can. I have to physically make myself get up because I don't usually have a reason to actually go anywhere. So I just kind of go walk the Greek. And it's been so fun to see my faculty colleagues. We have the Zoom enabled rooms now. So we have the camera technology installed in all of the classrooms that allows our faculty members to Zoom with their students, but from a classroom. So it would be just as though they were teaching them face to face. So it's so fun to walk by these classrooms and see faculty like so engaged and talking. And I only made the mistake once where Roscoe Williamson was teaching a class, and I thought because it was an empty room, he was by himself, and I walked in. Then I saw like 40 faces on Zoom, and I walked in like totally like Kramer, like threw the door open and like started talking to him. And I was like, oh my gosh, hi everyone, you're in class. And then you hear people like recording videos all over the place. Like when I walk by, offices and can hear people recording. I occasionally meet with students out in the Greek, socially distanced and masks on. But that's a fun way to just have a face-to-face with them. I recently had a transfer student who reached out to me who said she wanted to come to campus because she had actually never once been to campus. This was like week 6 of the semester. So she and I arranged a private time, a private kind of meeting to have her be able to see the campus. I gave her a quick tour. So that was pretty awesome. The days that I'm at home, I just try and manage 2 kids in school on Zoom, and a husband who's also working from home. So hence sitting in my dining room. And every day that I'm home, I wake up early, and the first thing I do after coffee is work out. This gets to your question about work-life balance. I make sure that exercise is like a very important priority every day. So, and I try and do it very early in the morning so that I don't find reasons to not do it. And with the question of work-life balance, I had a colleague, I think it was, John Wu, Dr. Wu over in psychology, who was on a panel with him once, and he said, work-life balance is really not attainable and is often too pressure-filled to try to achieve. And I've always sort of taken that to heart, that every day is just my best attempt to make it work. And every day starts with a list of things that I'd like to get done. And I make peace with the fact that not all of it always gets done. I work as hard as I can to do the best I can, but not at the expense of my health or my family or my students. So I just try and make sure that I'm sleeping as much as possible. That's probably the thing I fail the most at. Working out, responding to my students. That's the other thing I'll say is the Canvas world. I just try and be on the computer as much as possible to make sure I'm available for students, because there is that sort of ability to reach out in such an easy way, like in face-to-face. And finally, I will just say that, having 2 daughters, ages 14 and 10, who are living through this moment as well, I try and model for them as much as possible what it means to have a healthy outlook about this, that there's nothing we can do to control it. We didn't ask for it, but we have to rise to the occasion and try to stay healthy, get outdoors as much as possible, take care of ourselves. We've been doing family workouts so that they can get their PE in, and just making sure that I don't sort of lose my mind with the stress of it all, because then that's what they would see, right? And I don't want them to learn that from me. So we're just doing what we can, and we've taken lots of road trips, so that's fun.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think that it's also just helpful advice for other people too, just don't get too caught up in it. And I really appreciate that answer. And I think I was actually in the class that you were talking about, where you walked in on Roscoe. So that was funny, but and just for the last question, this is directed towards both of you, so feel free to answer it first. But what advice or encouragement would you want to give to the current students right now?
Yeah, good question. I think there's actually a lot here. I'll start with an encouragement, and that is from being a student myself, from seeing many generations of students come through this campus, or many years of students. I know like things are not great right now. Some things are good, but a lot of things are worse, or even worse. There's a lot that's been lost, and every day it feels like there's more things that are lost. And I guess the encouragement is that for all those things you lose, depending on how you respond to it, what I'm seeing is that our students are developing a level of resilience through all this that wouldn't have been available to them otherwise. Point Loma is a safe, wonderful place to be. We talk about the bubble, and in this season, it's not ideal. Nobody would ask for this, but you might be surprised in a year how much better equipped you are if you were a student that lived through this than maybe a student that didn't, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because of how you were challenged to adapt. And so I would just encourage you, we're in the darkness before the dawn, but this is not going to last forever. This too will pass, and then you will find yourself perhaps stronger on the other side. Advice is go outside, turn off your phones, go outside, go to the gym, go do something active. And maybe the best advice is anything you're doing, whatever it is, even if it is staying inside, always think, is this something I need to do alone? And if it's not, find someone to do it with. You all have friends and people that want to connect, and even maybe find a best friend or two that you challenge, or not even challenge, but you ask them. And I know we don't like asking things of people right now. We don't want to bother them. But actually, I think what I've found is they like being asked this, but asking them, hey, would you look, I find myself lonely sometimes. Would you be someone that I can call or that I can text when I want to do something with someone? And I want to offer that too. And it might feel awkward at first to like ask that question outright like that, but my experience is, and from what I've heard from students that are willing to do that, you're likely to get a positive response and actually grow that friendship even deeper. So this is a time for that. This is a time where we need each other and where the Lord is going to work in our lives through each other. So yeah.
I want to just leave it with what Scott said. Like, that was fantastic. But I would, just echo the point about resilience and that mindset of not just focusing on what's been lost, but what's been gained. There's so much skill building that's happening and character building that's happening. Just that ability to see beyond yourself and see to the greater good of the community. I think that's something that younger generations, we're accused of being sort of selfish or self-consumed. I think we can safely say that is not true of this generation or the millennial generation. So yeah, definitely that sort of community focus and resilience. I would also say Scott's advice about getting outside is fantastic. I find that just going outside and even looking up at the expanse of the sky often helps to give perspective in terms of sort of how the world is so much bigger and God is so much bigger than all of us. We've been going to the beach a lot and making sure that we're spending time near the ocean. And just go back to something that Scott said earlier about phone calls. I guess I am the generation that sort of didn't have texting or email in college. So phone calls have always been a part of my life, but I'm doing it more now. Just yesterday, I walked for an hour while my daughter was at a sports lesson, and I called a friend up in LA and we talked for that entire hour. And so it was sort of that duality of exercising and connecting with an old friend. And that was a really just meaningful moment. I try to do that. I try and schedule that actually every week. So rather than just scheduling my work, I schedule in time to connect with people, whether that's meeting up physically for a walk outside or calling someone. We've been doing Zoom calls with my college girlfriends, all of these ways that I'm trying to make sure that I'm connecting with people.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you both for your advice and your encouragement. I know you're both key members of our community, and I know that a lot of students are grateful for what you're doing on campus.